Moin, ihr wunderbaren Menschen des Interwebs. Ich begrüße euch ganz herzlich zurück zu meinem Let's Play von The Great Ace-Attorney Chronicles. Es geht weiter. Wir starten mit Ginas Aussage The Victim's Movements und hören uns mal an, wo Gregson gewesen ist. All yard detectives are supposed to follow orders and investigate what they are told. But the little search of the boss office turned up a notebook that had a lot of secret meetings in it. According to that, the boss was looking into some smuggled goods dealings that day. Looks like it was a big job and all, but the coppers weren't onto it yet. What matters most is there's witnesses who saw the Reaper at the place too. Smuggled goods? I do know, do I? I'm just telling you what was written in the book. Tobacco, tea, spices, medicines, goods of all sorts flow into London by illegal channels from across the globe. It's well known that they are disposed of at regular black markets that take place in the capital. But the police are rarely able to locate them in time. So Inspector Gregson was investigating one of those black markets? It's been suggested that high-ranking government officials may be involved in black market activity. No doubt, Gregson was trying to avoid details of his investigations being leaked to the involved parties. That would explain why he was operating on his own authority without the Yard's knowledge. And do we know where the dealings were taking place this time? In a particular room of a certain exclusive London gentleman's club, and on the day in question, the accused is known to have been there. That's the conclusion of Scotland Yard's investigation into the matter. That can't be. We haven't heard anything about any of this. Members of the club have testified to it. There is no question. The accused, Barak von Zieks, was present. That would be very significant testimony then. Oh my, but Lord von Zieks has made no mention of this at all. And sure, Lord von Zieks had ample opportunity to murder the victim. Very well done. Counsel for the defense, begin your cross-examination. Okay. All your detectives are supposed to follow orders, but a little search of the boss turned up a notebook. According to that, the boss was looking into some smuggled goods dealings that day. Do you have any idea where those dealings were taking place? Yep, it was all there in the boss's notes. Now let's see if I can remember. As I already said, the illegal dealings were due to take place at a gentleman's club. Yes, I remember, but I was hoping to find out the name of the club. That won't be necessary. What? It's conceivable that the club might be used again by the smugglers in future. Therefore, the prosecution has been asked not to reveal the name in these proceedings. I don't know what all the fuss is about. It's right here. All I've got to do is read it out. And I could too. I've got this reading game buttoned up now. Can't I show you what I can do? Go on, what's your... The judge hasn't signaled his objection yet. I could try to find out. What should I do? This is a closed court. The proceedings are confidential. There shouldn't be any possibility of the information being leaked. As I explained, there is some possibility of politicians being involved in this affair. The prosecution is rightfully exercising caution, I imagine. No, my lord. The prosecution has no objection. Kazuma? There is no question that Inspector Gregson was looking into these black market dealings. However, it's not yet been established that he was on that particular trail on the day in question. If the defense requires to know the club's name, the prosecution has no intention of being obstructive. Alright then, I get to show off my reading skills. Apparently, the smuggled goods deals was gonna happen at the gentleman's club called The Groose. Okay, it looks like it was a big job and all, but the corpse weren't Okay, Moment. Gina hat das jetzt geändert. Was gonna happen at the Gentleman's Club called The Groose. Okay, der Name, The Groose, das muss wichtig sein. Aber für was? Advertisement. Letter of instruction. Dismissal notice. Autopsy report. Sogi Papers, ja, da stand ja jetzt nicht so viel Wichtiges drin. Lynn's Autopsy Reports, Iris Lucky Charm. Okay, Moment. Also. Hopkins. Bla bla bla. Apply morning. Okay, the Lime Street. Nein. Letter of instruction. So, ja, das steht ja dann... Na, das steht ja jetzt nur... Hatten wir das nicht schon... Oh. The SS Groose, First Class, Cabin 001. Ich dachte, wir hatten das schon... Wir haben uns die nicht schon mal angeguckt. Yokohama Departure, 11 September, London Arrival, 1st November. That's the boat that Professor Mikotoba and Judge Shigoku came on from Japan. From Japan, isn't it? Yes, I think it called at Dunkirk on the north coast of France for a night before finally arriving in Dover. I think it's been almost a year since we arrived in Dover on the SS Beria. It seems a shame not to keep your ticket as a memento of your trip, don't you think? Yes, I agree. I have mine safely in my diary. Ja, das kommt mir bekannt vor. Wir haben uns das schon mal angeguckt, das Ticket. Und zwar genau nachdem wir das bekommen haben. Are you like this on purpose, Mr. Naruhodo? Did I imagine it, or was that comment accompanied by a little sigh? Okay. Dismissal Notice. Ich meine, okay, die Notice of Dismissal ist nicht wirklich hilfreich. Aber wenn Ginas Testimony sich geändert hat, dann muss es einen Hinweis geben, was ich damit machen kann. Und die Sogi Papers, das war ja, da stand ja nur drin, all seine Habseligkeiten sollen übergeben werden. Achso, können wir jetzt das Teil mal aufmachen? Let's have a look inside. Okay, das funktioniert schon mal. Look, there's something inside. Oh, let's see. It appears to be a passport authorizing him to travel overseas. Was Inspector Gregson about to go on a trip abroad then? Perhaps the date of departure might tell us something that was... Oh, what is it? It was for travel on 31st October, just one day before the incident. What? Really? Okay, passport. A passport document that was in Inspector Gregson's possession and was issued for travel to France the day before his body was discovered. Gregson went to France the day before his body was discovered. Okay. Aber mehr... Moment. You see that? There's something stuck in the side of the trunk there. It's glinting. It looks like a fragment of metal of some sort. But it's wedged in so tightly, I can't remove it. Well, don't cut yourself. You better leave it, I think. Okay. Metal. Stück. Das Blut. Look at this dark stain here. Do you think... Yes, I'm afraid so. I think it's blood. I knew you were going to say that, so that presumably means... that this was present at the scene when Inspector Gregson was killed. It's the most logical conclusion, yes. You think Gina's been carrying this around with her? You didn't know any better. I suppose it does look like a grease stain from all the fish and chips. Aber ansonsten habe ich hier keine weiteren Hinweise. Okay. So, dann habe ich jetzt den Passport bekommen. Name Tobias Gregson, passport number ACD0522, date of departure within 1 week from 31st October, destination Port of Dunkirk, France, purpose of travel, police business, notes, permission for the applicant and one additional person to travel. Genau, da hatte er ja eigentlich gesagt, er wollte ja Gina mitnehmen nach Frankreich. Und da hat er meinte ja auch, er wollte sie dadurch vom Reaper ja beschützen. Das würde ja gar keinen Sinn machen, wenn er für den Reaper Aufträge abschließen würde. Oder wenn er der Reaper wäre. Ich glaube immer noch nicht, dass Gregson der wahre Reaper sein soll. Oder zumindest mit dem wahren Reaper zusammenarbeitet. Das kann ich mir einfach nicht vorstellen. Okay, gut. So, den einzigen Hinweis für Gruß habe ich jetzt von dem Steamship-Ticket. Also werde ich jetzt einfach mal mein Leben riskieren und den hier präsentieren. Okay, das war richtig. I've read about these clubs that exist here in Britain. As I understand it, they are places where well-to-do gentlemen socialize with friends and colleagues. Don't imagine for a second that a foreign student like you would be admitted. Seriously, is your mirror cracked or something? Do we know for sure that the contraband dealings were definitely happening at a club called The Grooves? The police are currently looking for evidence, but haven't found anything definite yet. And I'm sorry to say that they probably won't. What do you mean by that? I mean that the place Inspector Gregson was secretly going to visit on 31st October may not have been a gentleman's club at all. You are showing a very irreverent attitude towards our country's police force there, Counsel. If it wasn't a gentleman's club, then what was it? A steamship. You think it's a ship? I have the evidence to prove it here. Let me see that. This dark-suited young man is not in the least bit untrustworthy. The other side, my lord. Be more specific next time. This would appear to be a ticket for passage upon a steamship, yes. The SS Grooves. So there is a steamship named the SS Grooves that happens to share a name with the club. But I'm afraid to say, there's a flaw in your logic there. How? Look at the ticket. Notice the date of arrival on port. The ship arrived at the port of Dover on 1st November. The day on which the sound like a gunshot was heard on Fresno Street. In other words, on the day in question here, 31st October, when the victim was on his clandestine mission, that ship hadn't yet docked on British shores. That would certainly make an undercover investigation somewhat challenging. The fact that the steamship hadn't yet reached Britain substantiates the defense's assertion that the victim was investigating the SS Grooves on the day in question. Can show your evidence for that assertion. Very well. In that case, counsel for the defense, present your evidence to the court now. Evidence that substantiates your claim that the victim was investigating the SS Grooves on 31st October. Und ja, ich habe jetzt gerade nur nach Hinweisen gesucht, wo der Name dabei steht. Ich habe jetzt gerade gar nicht weitergedacht. Ich habe ja den Passport von ihm jetzt auch noch gerade gefunden. Und natürlich geht er dann zu dem Schiff, weil er ja eigentlich damit verreisen wollte. Er wollte ja damit nach Frankreich. What's this? A passport for travel issued to the victim. Dated 31st October. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that just one day before the inspector's body was discovered, there is a distinct possibility he wasn't even in the country. This document is for passage to France. It does appear to have been officially authorized. The day before the SS cruise arrived at Dover, it docked on the northern coast of France for a night. According to my father, who was on board at the port of Dunkirk. What could possibly have been taking the victim there? I'm impressed, Ryunosuke Naruhodo. I certainly didn't expect you to get your hands on that passport. What? You mean you knew about this? The prosecution strategy for this trial has been laid down by the Crown Prosecution Office. On the day before the incident, the victim was investigating contraband dealings at a London club. That's the outcome of Scotland Yard's investigations and the line the prosecution has been asked to follow. But personally, I don't agree. I think the prosecutor's office is trying to hide something. And now that you've expertly disproven their assertion, I intend to reveal what I believe that something to be. What are you playing at, Prosecutor Sogi? A courtroom is a forum for the truth, my lord. Which is why it's my duty to present all the facts without exception. Let me guess. This was your intention from the outset, wasn't it? The reason Inspector Gregson secretly made his way to the steamship docked in France on the day in question was to carry out a mission for the Reaper. The Reaper? What on earth were you saying, counsel? The prosecution made an assertion in court yesterday. Inspector Gregson was investigating the identity of the Reaper. When he discovered the location of the man's secret hideout, he was killed. As I'm sure everyone can imagine, by the Reaper's hand. But in reality, the truth is the opposite of that. Inspector Gregson wasn't investigating the Reaper at all. He was in fact acting for the Reaper. So you're saying the mission he was undertaking was, obviously, an assassination. Barak von Zieks never carried out any of the actual killings. Whenever the Reaper's victims lost their lives, he always had a cast iron alibi. Which tells us that he must have had an accomplice. And you claim that was Inspector Gregson. What the hell do you think you're saying, eh? My boss would never have done nothing like that. And yet, when you consider all the facts, it all makes perfect sense. No, it can't be. We also arrived at the same conclusion, didn't we? Inspector Gregson was operating as the Reaper. Even though there's no way that the person giving him his orders was Lord von Zieks. No, the true Reaper is somebody else. Barak von Zieks is not the Reaper. A predictable response from someone who's advocating for the man. And even if it's true that Gregson was operating as an agent of the Reaper, the suggestion that he went aboard the SS Cruise on an assassination mission doesn't follow at all. You have some solid reason for adopting the assertion, do you, counsel? Absolutely, it's very simple. On the day in question, nobody was killed aboard that steamship. Professor Mikotoba and Judge Shigoku were on that very ship. If someone had been assassinated, I'm certain we would have heard about it. What's so funny? You're right, of course, no suspicious deaths were reported on board the ship. But I think perhaps you've missed the point. That's precisely why Inspector Gregson himself lost his life. Gregson did board the SS Cruise that night with the intention of dispatching his mark. But his mission ended in failure. It seems that the defense hasn't yet grasped a very important detail here. What are you talking about? What detail? Inspector Gina Lestrade. What? The victim's notebook that you read. An excerpt from earlier. That doesn't contain details of secret investigations at all. It describes 10 years of assassination plots to be carried out by the Reaper of the Bailey. That lion. Even if Walden Blotchers what got taken out did come in. The boss weren't the Reaper. Poor Gina. There is no question that Tobias Gregson was heavily involved in the Reaper's activities. You may just be an apprentice, but if you've spent any time at Scotland Yard, you must have heard rumors. I ain't heard nothing, and I don't believe a word of it. Then testify again. As a representative of Scotland Yard, consider it your chance to defend your boss. I don't... I concur. The witness will give a new formal testimony. Miss Lestrade, you will tell the court everything you know about Inspector Gregson's secret notebook. Ja, also, das ist so schwierig für mich zu glauben. Weil Gregson auch überhaupt nicht. Wir haben so viel Zeit mit Gregson verbracht, ja. Wir haben Gregson so oft gesehen. Und es ist für mich einfach unmöglich zu glauben, dass dieser Mensch so ein skrupelloser Killer ist. Ich könnte mir höchstens vorstellen, dass Gregson undercover gegangen ist und für den, also so getan hat, als würde er auf der Seite vom Reaper stehen, um genug Beweise zu sammeln, um dann den Reaper zur Strecke zu bringen. Das könnte ich mir vorstellen, aber ich kann mir einfach beim besten Willen nicht vorstellen, dass Gregson jemanden umbringen würde. Die einzige Möglichkeit, die ich sehen würde, dass er so etwas tun würde, wäre, um jemand anderen zu beschützen. Oder um andere Leute zu beschützen. Aber, wie gesagt, ich kann mir einfach wirklich beim besten Willen nicht vorstellen, dass Gregson so eine Art Mensch ist, der andere einfach so tötet. Und das immer und immer wieder. Und da, also, und sich dann so gibt, also so vor jemanden steht und eben vom Charakter her mit uns immer so geredet hat und immer so, ja, unschuldig gewirkt hat. Das kann ich mir einfach. Ich kann es mir einfach nicht vorstellen. Ich bekomme das einfach nicht in meinen Kopf rein. Ich kann mir einfach nicht vorstellen, dass Gregson so ein Mensch sein soll. Und das akzeptiere ich auch nicht. Also ich gehe nach wie vor davon aus, dass Gregson unschuldig ist. Oder dass er einen Grund dafür hatte, dass er gehandelt hat, wie er gehandelt hat. Ich kann mir einfach das sonst nicht anders vorstellen. Aber ja, es gibt auf jeden Fall Sinn, dass Gregson eben dort war und auf dem Schiff war. Da habe ich habe einfach nur nach Hinweisen gesucht und als ich dann den Hinweis gefunden habe, habe ich die Punkte nicht verbunden. Ich hatte einfach nur nach dem Namen gesucht und bin dann mehr der Logik des Spiels gefolgt. Also, wo du halt, wenn du Spiele lange genug spielst, weißt du genau, was sie von dir ungefähr wollen und wo sie dann einen Hinweis wollen und wo dann eher nicht. Manchmal ist das noch so ein bisschen verschwommen und manchmal denke ich mir dann, stehe ich dann auch noch auf dem Schlauch. Aber so meistens verstehe ich eben die Logik hinter dem Game. Und wenn ich aber dann nur der Logik vom Game folge, dann manchmal raff ich dann gar nicht die eigentliche Logik, also wie denn der Hinweis dann tatsächlich so zusammenpasst. Ich weiß nicht, ob das jetzt Sinn ergeben hat. Wahrscheinlich eher nicht so. Ich glaube, ich habe das jetzt ein bisschen komisch erklärt. Aber das ist gerade mit mir passiert, wo ich mich halt zu sehr einfach nur darauf konzentriert hat, okay, die Aussage hat sich geändert, das heißt, es muss eigentlich dafür jetzt einen Beweis geben, den ich vorlegen kann. So war das eben gerade in meinem Kopf. So, wir haben die nächste Zeugenaussage, The Reaper's Notebook, und mit dieser Aussage wird es im nächsten Part weitergehen. Ich bedanke mich ganz herzlich fürs Zusehen, hoffe, ihr hattet Spaß und wenn ihr mögt, sehen wir uns sehr, sehr gerne im nächsten Part wieder. Bis dahin, ciao!